Welcome back. I'm trying to get this lid back on there. Okay, are you ready for our study in Genesis? Awesome. Let's go to... Oh no, what did I do with my glasses? Where did I take them off at? Oh, I hate it when I do that. Reekage. Okay, I hope I have another pair here. Walked off and then set them down, didn't I? Carnage. You know, I'm just really, really bad about that. Where's my other pair? Don't make me like... Oh gosh, seriously? Sorry, I'm still recovering, but the only other pair of glasses I've got in my purse right now are these pink. They're bright pink. I'm sorry. What can I say? Okay. All right, let's go to Genesis chapter 24. We finished up with chapter 24, verse 67. That was the last. That was the last verse in that chapter. Now we're going to go into. Wait a minute. What am I doing? Okay, 24:6. So we're going into. Oh, we're going into chapter 25. I confused myself because this was a previous study. I was in here in December 2014 at this. Okay, never mind. We're going to go into the death of Abraham. That's chapter 25. Are you ready? O Lord, you and not me as always. In Jesus' name. Chapter 25, let's get into the death of Abraham with verse 1. Then again, Abraham took a wife. So he took a wife after the death of Sarah again. And her name was Keturah. Did you know that? Abraham had a third wife besides Hagar and Sarah. In verse 2, and she bare him Zimron. Did you know Abraham had more children after Isaac with Keturah? She bare him Zimron and Jokshan and Medan and Midian and Ishbak and Shua. Keturah bore Abraham 6 sons after the death of Sarah. And remember, Sarah was 127 years old when she died. Something like that. So, isn't that interesting? And so we're going to go into some of these genealogies again a little bit here. And Jokshan, in verse 3, begat Sheba and Dedan. Now, Sheba and Dedan, that's Saudi Arabia. And the sons of Dedan were Asherim, Letishim, and Leumim. And the sons of Midian, Ephah, Epher, Hanok, Abida, and Eldah. All these were the children of Keturah. And Abraham gave all that he had unto Isaac. See, those six sons did not receive an inheritance from their father. Isaac received everything. But unto the sons of the concubines which Abraham had, Abraham gave gifts and sent them away from Isaac his son. So he did the same thing with the sons of Keturah that he had done with Ishmael. So it says, unto the sons of the concubines which Abraham had, Abraham gave gifts and sent them away from Isaac his son, while he yet lived eastward unto the east country. So it wasn't just Ishmael that was sent away. And these are the days of the years of Abraham's life which he lived, 163 years. So that's 175 years old. So Abraham lived to be 175. How about that? Then Abraham gave up the ghost and died in a good old age. 175 is a good old age, isn't it? An old man and full of years, and was gathered to his people. So he died. In verse 9, and his sons Isaac and Ishmael, both together, buried him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar the Hittite, which is before Mamre. Remember when we talked about how Abraham purchased a burying place from the sons of Heth. And this is the field they're talking about. The field which Abraham purchased of the sons of Heth, there was Abraham buried and Sarah his wife. So they buried Abraham where Abraham had buried Sarah. And it came to pass after the death of Abraham that God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac dwelt by the well Lahairoi. Now we're going to talk about the descendants of Ishmael. In verse 12, now these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaid, bare unto Abraham. In verse 13, and these are the names of the sons of Ishmael, by their names, according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Nebajoth, and Kedar, and Adbeel, and Mibsam, and Mishma, and Duma, and Massa, and Hadar, and Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedema. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names by their towns and by their castles. 12 princes according to their nations. You know, Jacob had 12 sons, and then you have the tribes of Israel, the 12. Well, Ishmael had 12 sons. Okay? God blessed him too. But it's different. In verse 16, and these are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years. Well, he lived 137 years old. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? And he gave up the ghost and died, and was gathered unto his people. In verse 18, and they dwelt from Havilah unto Shur, that is before Egypt, as thou goest toward Assyria. And he died in the presence of all his brethren. So now we're going to look at Jacob and Esau. Okay? Now Jacob and Esau were twin sons of Isaac. So we have Abraham, Isaac, rather than Abraham, Ishmael, or Abraham and the sons of Keturah. Everything went to Isaac, this child of the promise. Okay? So now we're going to look at Isaac's sons. He had twin sons, Jacob and Esau. And God split off the branch of those who inherit the promises there as well, between Jacob and Esau. That's why he says he's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, not the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Esau. And you're going to find out some things about Esau here as to why God didn't choose him. Now let's go into verse 19 of chapter 25. Are you ready? And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begat Isaac. In verse 20, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife. So we had talked about how Isaac was about 37 when his mother died. So he was 40 when he married Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel the Syrian, of Padan Aram, he was Syrian, the sister to Laban the Syrian. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren. Rebekah had no children. And the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. In verse 22, and the children struggled together within her. She had twins. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. So he's got 2 different nations in her womb. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, Behold, there were twins in her womb. See, they didn't have ultrasound back then, so she wasn't sure until it was time. And the first came out red, all over like a hairy garment. And they called his name Esau. He's the oldest, right? Remember, it says the elder shall serve the younger. In verse 26, and after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel. And his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. He was 60 years old when he had his sons. Remember, he was 40 when he married Rebekah, and they went 20 years being childless. In verse 27, and the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau, because he did eat of his venison. But Rebekah loved Jacob. Now, did you notice in this verse in 28, Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison. Isaac loved Esau not because he was his son, not because he was a good man, but because he liked to eat what Esau brought him. Okay? That's why he loved Esau. Because he did eat of his venison. How would you like to be loved just because you bring somebody something to eat? Didn't love him because he was his son. See, if God doesn't love somebody, you can't either. You can't. But it says, because God is love. Okay? And if he loves someone, he loves them. If he loves someone through you, you can feel love for them. Because God is love. But if he doesn't love them, you can't either. And that's what the situation was here. Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, not because he was his son or because he was a good man or anything like that. Isaac had a problem being able to love Esau, and it's because God didn't love Esau. You can't love somebody that God doesn't love, because God is love, which means if he loves someone, you are able to love them. He's able to love them through you. Okay? But if he doesn't love them, you can't either. Now it says here, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Rebekah loved Jacob. Okay? And because God loved Jacob. In verse 29, and Jacob sawed pottage. And Esau came from the field, and he was faint. He was really hungry. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. Jacob's cunning, isn't he? He's like, you want some soup? Give me what I want. Want your birthright. Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright for the soup. And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me? So he hands over his birthright for a bowl of soup. And God was livid. Okay? Now remember, God sets up these examples and then reacts to them to show us how he thinks and how he does things. These are examples to us. So it says in verse 33, and Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he sware unto him. Esau swore to his brother Jacob that he could have his birthright as the firstborn if he would give him some of that soup. But here's the thing, Esau was a liar. He had no intention of giving his birthright over to his brother. He just said that to get the soup out of him. He was a liar. And he sold his birthright unto Jacob. But he didn't mean it. But it doesn't matter if he meant it or not. It stands because God made sure it stood. Okay? You know what? Let's go ahead and do 34. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. His birthright was so valuable, he had no clue. And he sold it for a bowl of soup. And you know what? That's what the trib saints are going to be doing. That take the mark. Well, they wouldn't be trib saints if they took the mark, would they? That's what the people during this time are going to be doing who take the mark. They're going to get so hungry, they're going to say, okay, I'm going to give up my eternal inheritance. Just feed me so I don't starve to death. And I'll hand it over. Hand over my soul. Hand over my birthright. Hand over my inheritance for a meal. God hated that. He hated that with a passion. And this birthright was extremely valuable. And he gave it up just to fill his belly. Okay? He's like, oh, well, if I stand here and starve to death, what good's it going to do me? Okay. And hands it over. That's what those who take the mark are going to do. They're going to say, well, what good is my inheritance if I starve to death? Well, you don't get a hold of your inheritance unless you die and get there first. It's entirely possible that we are in some kind of an amazing digital simulation. And when you leave that simulation, you're still alive. It's like virtual reality. Okay? But it's so elaborate that there's no way that we could ever discover without knowing the Word of God or without advanced science as it is today. It's science that says this is a digital simulation we're in. That this world is not real. It's made of computer codes. Well, that makes total sense to me, really, because the Lord is training us in a controlled environment where we won't actually be physically harmed. We're inside a simulator. We don't know it, which is why he can get realistic and genuine results from the tests he gives us in here to see what we're made of. We will react as though it's real because we think it is, but it's not. Okay, it's a controlled environment, and we know that already, right? God controls everything. Now let's go into Isaac and Abimelech. Let me see if anybody has any questions over here in the chat room. Hi guys. Let me back up. You guys have some good comments here. And I'm missing a lot of them. Got just a few minutes here now that we've finished the chapter. Okay. Oh, hi, Tammy. Welcome. It's great to have you, sweetie. Let's see. Wow, you guys have had a lot to say. I'm going to look here. So glad to have you, Tammy. Tammy says, I have to figure out how to be in the chat room and watch at the same time. Yeah, it is. It is a challenge. But the regulars can help you out there. Let's see. As Charmaine says, I still think we could get raptured next year because of the Revelation 12 sign appearing in the sky during the Feast of Trumpets. Actually, it appears after the Feast of Trumpets is already over. And that's why I think it's a 1-year warning. It comes like the 23rd of September, and the Feast of Trumpets is already over by the time the sign appears, which is why it looks like it's a 1-year warning. Okay. Don't I wish? I wish that it was only 1 year away. I do. I would love to be able to tell you that I can prove that in the scriptures, but I can't. The Revelation 12 constellation shows up September 23rd, 2017. after the Feast of Trumpets is wrapped up. So that is telling us it's like a 1-year warning. Okay. And now Charmaine's letting Tammy know that she watches on her phone and chats on her tablet. How about that? Janine watches on her laptop. Janine says, how can that be legal, Lisa? I don't remember what y'all are talking about. How can what be legal? I moved on past, so I don't know what you're asking me, sister. Charmaine says, we will be dead meat. Janine says, that's right, Char. I read that the Dems will give the vote to felons and illegals. Well, they want dead people to vote too, you know. They don't want to discriminate against dead people. But you know what? We're dead in Christ. And if I don't Troy, have you got me? Troy? Troy. Okay. I'll just keep going here. Okay, sorry guys. We got our internet connection got dropped, but we're back. I'm looking at these comments in the chat room. Let's see. They were talking about oh yeah, Gary Johnson and William Weld. That's right. That's who is on our ballot in Oklahoma. The libertarians. Yeah. Shirley says, don't Islam love death? Those who hate our king love death. And that includes all of them. In Islam, Catholicism, you name it, all of those cults. Both of those are cults, by the way. Do you know how to identify a cult? A cult is based on the visions and teachings of a man rather than the Lord. Okay? Just like Jehovah's Witnesses. That faith is based, it's a cult because it's based on the teachings and visions of Charles Taze Russell. Mormons, that's a cult. Church of Latter-day Saints. It is based on the visions and teachings of Joseph Smith. Islam is a cult. It is based on the visions and teachings of Muhammad. Well, who can believe that anyway? It says a donkey flew, but there's no witnesses. But 1.6 billion Muslims believe this donkey flew and there's no witnesses. Sorry, well, for somebody like me that's looking for proof, I just can't buy that. But Jesus Christ performed miracles in the presence of thousands of witnesses. Okay? Be smart when you're looking for the truth. Don't rely on a faith that has no witnesses to something crazy like a donkey flying through the air. How's anybody supposed to believe that if you don't have witnesses to the event? And you're crazy if you do believe it without witnesses. Muhammad expected for everyone to just take his word for it. No witnesses, no evidence, no nothing. Okay? We're going to wrap up. I love you guys. God bless you. I hope you will join me again tomorrow. Should the Lord tarry, here, there, or in the air. And do right and risk the consequences. God bless you.